Back in the old days, there was this program called Layaway, where you can go into like a store and start making payments on something, some high-dollar ticket item, and once you paid that off every month, it was yours. You could take it home. That's how I bought my first deer rifle from the Marine Corps PX on Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. And it was the first, weapon that I bought that I purchased myself. It wasn't a hand-me-down. It wasn't my dad's. It wasn't anything like that. So I went and I picked out this 30-06, and I just didn't have a lot of money. And so I did the layaway program, but I needed a scope on it. And the cheaper scopes were all sold out. And so I bumped up to like this entry-level loophole scope and put that on the layaway program and had them all, put the whole package together for me and all that. Made the payments and finally got to bring it home. Ever since then, almost every rifle I've owned has had a loophole scope. In fact, I'm having a custom rifle built this year, and it's going to have the loophole Mark 5 HD scope on it. I just killed a buffalo with that scope. It's a really great product. And loophole guys, you know them. Everybody knows loophole. They've been around since like 1907. They started as like a special instrument company or something like that. But these American-made products are fantastic. Whether you're looking for a spotter, binos, a rifle scope, accessories, tripods, bipods, all that kind of stuff. You can find it all at loophole.com. And I'd really appreciate if you supported this American company that has a great American story. And I couldn't be a bigger fan of a company, and I'm so happy and thrilled that they've chosen to partner with the Western Huntsman. Thanks to Leupold, and thanks to you guys for supporting our great sponsors. American-made products are the name of the game for me and the Western Huntsman. I really will go out of my way and spend more money to buy things that are American-made and keeps jobs and things like that right here in the United States of America. That brings us to Vantage Point Archery. If you haven't listened yet, wherever you listen to your podcast as, go find episode 201, Vantage Point Archery with Ryan Corkwell and Jeff Stringer. Those are the founders of Vantage Point Archery, and these are great dudes. They'll give you a lot of the insight and information that you need on picking out your broadhead for this season. Don't wait any longer, guys, because season is going to be here before we know it. It's almost here. I am going to be shooting the VPA Omega with bleeders for this elk season. They have the single bevels, 2-blade, 3-blades. These are great broadheads. They're American-made. They're tried and true. They're tested. I've been shooting them all summer. Really impressed with this company, and I couldn't be happier having them as a sponsor on this show. Happy to partner with them. Thanks, guys. There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive, and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Western Huntsman Podcast. This is Jim Huntsman, your host, coming at you from the Broken Town studio right here in Northwest Montana, and brought to you by Eastman's Hunting Journals. Maybe I should rename it to Huntsman's Hunting Journals. Tongue twister there. Today, I have in the studio with me is my good buddy Rob Yoder. I've been doing a lot of hunting with him, and also I have my dog that keeps. Apparently, he might need to go outside, man. That's pretty smelly. He's farting.
Oh, he's a busy dog. I don't know what you're feeding him.
I don't know, but this might be unpleasant if he stays in here. But just so you guys know, so Rob, if you follow along on like Instagram that I posted, I don't know, a couple months ago, Rob is one of those guys that's not like got this big Instagram, social media kind of following. But he's one of the best hunters I've ever met, and definitely the best hunter I've ever personally hunted with. And I'm not kidding when I tell you I've learned more in the last few months hunting with Rob than I have in the last 5 to 10 years combined.
Oh, geez. Now my head's getting big.
And I'm really excited to have you on the show, man. So
thank you
very
much. It's been a long time coming.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So coffee good?
Coffee's great.
I have refill over here.
I'll take you up on that right now.
There you go. All right, let's try to do this without spilling it all over the electronics. So, folks, we're coming into February. Hunt Expo is coming up. I want to real quick thank the sponsors on the show: Loophole Optics, Vantage Point Archery, Barnes Bullets, Phelps Game Calls, and Silencer Central. I really appreciate all you guys that support them. They support this show, and they make it possible. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do it. So Rob, why don't we kick this off? Give everybody like the bird's eye view of who you are. It doesn't need to be a big autobiography, but who the heck are you? And we'll go from there.
Well, I tell you, as a kid growing up in the Midwest, hunting has always been a big passion of mine right from the word go. It's always been a dream of mine to try to make a living chasing animals, whatever that might look like. It's more or less just enjoying the outdoors and getting people involved in the sport. I think it's a very important thing myself to, share the sport and introduce the youth into it. I moved out to Montana in my early 20s, now in my early 40s, and I tell you, it's been a dream come true. It's been everything I've ever dreamt about. Chasing everything from mountain lion to, deer, elk, black bear, moose, sheep, goat. It's anything big game. It's just been a real, it's been a wonderful journey. And I would express that I would, encourage others to, take a hold and, enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's, the thing is like, there's two types of hunters. You have a hunter that is kind of a hobbyist hunter, I call them. And there's nothing wrong with either type, by
Correct,
the way.
Yep.
Some people are they're hobbyist hunters. They're mildly interested in dipping their toes in it every once in a while and trying it out. And then you have people that are a lot like you and I that are lifestyle hunters. And I call it a lifestyle hunter. That is kind of what we have designed our life around,
Correct, yeah.
Jobs come and go, but hunting is always there.
Hunting is always there, and I hope that it always will be there. It'll be a bad day if I ever have to close that door, for sure.
What do you see as the biggest threat to the future of hunting since we're on that topic?
So just, from my perspective, there's a few things. One is, predator control is huge. That definitely keeps that just game management in general, whatever that looks like. And then, lack of hunters. I'm personally passionate about youth hunters, and I feel like there's maybe there's a bit of a low when it comes to new hunters getting introduced to the sport, new young hunters. And then, if there's a lack of game animals in the woods is, to kind of highlight the experience for them. It just kind of goes away. And then there's other things that play into that. A lot of youth now have technology where we didn't. So, that kind of gives them something to do that's not in the outdoors. So that's just my perspective. I think that it's wise for, those who do go into the sport and enjoy it. If you want to keep it alive, introduce the youth to the sport.
Yeah. And I like when you put it that way, because you actually put your money where your mouth is. Rob assisted, Rob is the reason my daughter got a big old mountain lion last week. Which, by the way, man, you are basically just one of the hounds. I've never seen somebody move up a mountain like you can. And we're like the same age, where I think I'm a couple years older, in fact, but,
sure, yeah.
But, I have just never seen that kind of, stamina in the mountains, and it's pretty incredible. But getting back to, what you were saying with youth hunters and whatnot, both your daughters got really nice deer.
Yes.
Yep. And this last year, Emily got a smoking buck, which, by the way, Rob and I go to the same church. And so that's kind of where we met. And we've been, just kind of growing our friendship
Yep.
ever since, and it's been really cool.
And our daughters are roughly the same age too.
Yeah.
And they're on the same basketball team. So they definitely share a lot of like experiences.
Yeah, for sure. And so, with that actually, before I ask that question, I want to ask you, you grew up in the Midwest.
Correct.
What did you hunt out there? Like your whitetail kind of thing?
Yeah, whitetail, your rabbits, your turkeys, some coyotes. Very little predator hunting to be done in the state of Ohio where I was born and raised. It wasn't really, and I was very young, there. I had an older brother that really took the time and introduced me to the sport. So I was very fortunate that way. My dad tried some, but he had a job. He had a lot of mouths to feed. So, that kept him out of the woods a lot more than he would have liked. But,
sure.
Coming from there, it's, anytime I was in school or trying to do something that, everybody else wanted to do, I really just had a passion to be in the woods in general. So it didn't matter if I was down at the creek or out in the woods getting lost somewhere looking for salamanders. I just wanted to be in the woods and whatever that would look like.
Mm-hmm. Bear with me. I'm still I've got this lingering cough going on from that. So speaking of the basketball team, that crud that was going around.
Oh man, everybody's got it. Seems like.
Yeah. So, cause that's what I wanted to ask you, man. So, 40 plus years, technology aside, what do you think, especially that moment, that time in your life where you come out to Montana and now you're living in Montana, hunting the West, the game species change, the terrain changes drastically, all these things change. What's been the biggest change in the hunting space, I guess, like overall, from whether it's hunting in Ohio as a kid or when you first got out to Montana and started hunting elk? And I like, not the easy technology thing. Outside of technology, what do you think has changed the most? And is it a good change or a bad change?
I would say the biggest change that I've seen personally, firsthand, and I'm not knocking them, but I am saying they definitely need managed, is hunting with the wolves, or hunting the same animals as the wolves are. And, there's some political stuff that plays into that, and it's definitely changed the landscape of game numbers and what we're used to seeing when we're out in the woods. They hunt 24/7. And we're very seasonal, so it seems like things are balancing out. We've got a lot of game numbers coming back. They've upped the quotas on wolves. They're definitely starting to manage them in a more serious way. So I am very thankful for that. I think it's making a big impact in a positive way.
Yeah. Shout out to that Brandon guy that got that white wolf the other day.
Oh man, what an awesome experience that was, and a rogue animal. I mean, he had missing an eyeball, had his tooth sticking through his upper lip, and
jeez,
he was always by himself. Looks like every time I seen him or seen his track, he was by himself. So, assuming he was the outcast of the area.
Yeah, just a rough customer all around.
Yeah, no doubt. But
I think you were the first one to find that dang thing.
Yeah. The best of my knowledge, yes.
But yeah, I agree with the analysis of wolves change the landscape drastically. However, there is like this comeback. I feel like
I do too. And I'm seeing that in our quota numbers. Through the outfit. Our game numbers are definitely, and our good mature game numbers. It's not just deer and elk in general, but the quality of animals that that people are taking, I think, is reflecting that they're able to live and reach their peak potential or real close to. So that's pretty positive measuring point for me.
I think too, one of the things, and I'm kind of a layman with a lot of this, but one of the things I've really noticed is, like 5 years ago, and this was on the North Idaho side, not here in Montana. I noticed that the elk as like a collective whole went kind of silent for a couple of years.
Boy, it sure seemed like it.
Yeah.
And for an animal that talks a lot in general, it's natural for them to be very vocal. But we had to change our hunting tactics quite a bit and do a lot of the silent or very little calling and then, very patiently wait.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now what I've noticed is the elk will tell you if the wolves are around, because if they're quiet, they're not going to make a peep unless it's a really worked up ruddy bull, but if they're vocal, because and that's another big difference too. Like, you can go into a drainage and that whole thing will open up with bugles and 3 or 4 elk in there, and then you go in there 3 days later and it's a ghost town, and all of a sudden there's wolf sign, and it kind of tells a story. You know?
That's a fact.
Yeah. Wolf predator management and mountain lion. You're a pretty prolific mountain lion hunter, houndsman.
Yeah, and a big part of that is I super enjoy hounds. And that's another way to make an impact in the wintertime when, a lot of people go back to their normal jobs, and I don't think I'd do well in an office, so
yeah.
I figure I would much rather take up the hobby of chasing hounds around the mountains and get paid for it. And then, of course, it helps in the long run. It relieves a lot of pressure off of the deer and elk, which I believe is also super important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the quota here in our area is field, and that is, I don't know how many, probably roughly 20 lions, give or take. But I mean, if you take into account how many deer those lions are killing every year, I swear I'm going to cough.
Yeah. I guess I don't know the exact numbers, but based on the biology that they give us, they say one deer a week on average per mountain lion.
Mm-hmm.
My experience on the ground is it's probably quite a bit more than that. So.
Well, and you found that one lion was on an elk kill this year.
Yeah.
So it's not just deer.
Exactly. Yep. It's not just deer. And let's just say, you take 20 mountain lion out of one unit, add that times 48 to 50 animals. That's a lot of deer and elk that they're taking in a given season. And yeah, if we didn't, I mean, there's got to be room for some predators for sure. And, but the predator quality, very mature animals, a lot of them are 4 years old plus. So they're reaching their full potential too.
Yeah.
So, I think it's pretty positive in both the deer and the elk right now. We're definitely seeing a good comeback. And we're able to, when we hunt mountain lion, we're able to find mountain lion tracks to chase almost every day, sometimes a few.
Yeah. That spot we went last week was pretty active.
My goodness.
They were just going the wrong direction at first.
That's right. Yeah, that was a good hunt.
Yeah. So, let's get back to this youth hunting thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because, there's one thing that I noticed, like when we're talking about hunter participation, and well, even like that, the predator thing is a good example. When we're talking about wolves and mountain lions and your approach to that from like a conservation aspect, it's not like you come at this from a place of hate for these animals. Definitely not. You notice the shoot, shovel, shut up crowd out there with wolves. Those are usually coming from people that have never even seen a wolf on the landscape, and they've never actually been out there and tried to hunt a wolf. They're just mad because hunting elk is maybe changed enough that it's made it too difficult. And man, oh man, I'm going to get some nasty emails over that. But I do. That's what I'm finding. And they come at it from this place of hate, and that doesn't move the needle for us when we're trying to convince the general public, the non-hunting public, that wolf management is good for conservation, and that the propagated information they're getting from these pro-wolf advocacy groups is propaganda, and that's it.
It definitely is. I was 100% against the wolves coming. I still don't.
Yeah, me too.
Care for them whatsoever. But given the the legality of it, it's very important we stay within the legal parameters. And then, of course, if we want to make a difference, show up at the meetings, the fish and game meetings, the biologist meetings, be in communication with them on what you're seeing. Everything from pack numbers to, just your experience in the woods in general. It's very important to communicate with the biologists on, what you're seeing on the ground. And that helps them kind of determine on their seasons and quota numbers.
What do you say to the guy that you see like on Facebook a lot or somewhere, especially, social media in general, that says, well, the Fish and Game, the biologist and the game commissions and all those folks managing wildlife for us, they don't listen to us. What do you say to them?
I definitely feel that there is some of that, but that's a sticky subject, all in itself. I definitely think that it's very counterproductive, and I personally try to kind of stay out of the political part of it, but I have seen both sides of it, where some people put their head in a hole and pretend it's not happening, and I've seen others, get real violent about it. And at the end of the day, I don't think either one of them's a wise choice. I do believe that they'll have the normal conversation with you, just like an everyday person. If you're an outdoorsman and you have a passion for the outdoor, then you have a voice.
If you were suddenly granted like all, authority in the state of Montana for wildlife management, is there like one or two top priorities that you would change immediately that you feel would make, wildlife management more successful so that we see more animals?
Yeah, I would definitely, the big one would be the wolves, because they hunt a lot more, day and night, and sometimes they'll kill more than what they'll eat. There's a whole lot of, they're not just scavengers. So
Yeah.
that to me is, that's not necessarily a natural balance, so to speak. I do believe that there's a lot of hunters that have quit hunting or taken it nearly as serious because of the lack of opportunity right after the wolves showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would think that's one area. And then, between the youth hunting, I think that's another area that we can increase revenue for biology purpose. And it helps everybody across the board, even if you're a non-hunter, which is totally fine. If you can keep the conservative revenue, the hunt revenue, buying guns, bullets, hunting gear, all that stuff helps conservation in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
Highly encourage it.
Way more than the crazy cat lady that donates $20 to PETA because she saw a post on Facebook.
Correct.
I cannot stress that enough. That lady that I think I've talked about it on the show, but a couple years ago at the Hunt Expo, there was a mule deer tag auctioned off through the Mule Deer Foundation for this, prized mule deer hunt. I think it was like Antelope Island in Utah or something, which there's some banger bucks out there. Anyway, this tag went for $750,000. Somebody,
wow.
and then just at SCI in Nashville, like last week, there was, I think it was a sheep tag. Now, guys, don't quote me on this because I've been reading so much lately. I don't remember what I'm trying. Anyway, the point is, don't quote me on this, but I believe it was a sheep tag, but it went for north of $2 million. So when hunters raise that kind of revenue and that kind of money, that is actual revenue that goes directly to conservation efforts. Unlike the Kitty Block salary, who is the CFO or CEO of, now I'm going to draw a blank. If I don't remember if Kitty Block is, let me look at that up. It's either PETA or Humane Society. Let's see. Kitty Block, just because I don't want to misspeak, man. Humane Society of the United States. So this is an organization that raises roughly, somewhere in the neighborhood of $65 million a year. They pay her almost $1 million a year just in salary. And this is an organization that does nothing for wildlife management and actual conservation work. And so what I'm trying to do is paint a picture as to where this money comes from, and it's going to tie into what you're talking about with getting the youth out there. Why, like in your mind, Rob, why is youth hunting so important? Why is getting the youth involved so important?
I believe that it's much easier also to get youth involved and keep them involved for life. That's a conservative revenue for life than if you get someone that's new to the sport that's in their 50s. I mean, how many years do they have where, they're going to be a contributor? Of course, all are welcome, and we encourage anybody that, buys a hunting license and has a passion for the outdoors, do it. It doesn't matter the age, but my thing is the youth is one that you just very rarely see now in the woods, and it looks from a distant view. If you look back in, 20, even 30 years ago, the public school didn't even have school the first day of rifle season because a lot of kids were busy hunting, and that was great. Now, fast forward, a lot of schools don't close first day of rifle season.
They don't even acknowledge.
It.
We had like 3 days off for opener in Utah.
Right on. Yeah. I think we did too back in Ohio in the day. Now I don't believe they do. I'm not positive, but I don't think Ohio does now.
Yeah, I don't know that any public school system does that anymore. Yeah. I think that there was a random day off because my kids, they're not in public school. Well, your kids aren't either.
They're not anymore.
They're not in public school anymore. We homeschool our kids, but before we pulled them out of public school, there was a day and the teacher was like, well, this actually the day off is now because of this reason, but it's the same day off that it used to be for deer hunting season. So they might still, in like certain areas like Montana and Idaho, have that day off, but it's not labeled as, as deer hunting. For a different
reason, yeah.
And that's, and I think that that's important. And I want to get your take on how we get kids involved, because, we can sit and talk about, how important it is for the next generation of hunters and the revenue and the passion, the protection of hunting, because hunting, to us is not like we're, bottle cap collectors and if it went away, it wouldn't be that big of a deal.
Correct.
We're not collecting baseball cards and trying to turn it into, a bunch of money or something like that. This is a lifestyle that we committed to because it is just who we are. And there's no real deeper explanation other than it's just who we are. This whole dive into copper bullets has been fascinating for me, and you guys should check it out. Go to barnesbullets.com and have a look at the website and check out these bullets. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I found with them. But what they talk about is, like since 1989, they've been engineering the most technologically advanced hunting bullets and ammunition on the planet. And the more I shoot these suckers, the more I tend to believe it. They're manufactured here in the USA. In fact, their facility is down by my dad's ranch in central Utah. And what I've found is they really do create a little bit better penetration. They expand on impact, so the blood trails are quite a bit larger, and they do a little bit more damage, putting that animal down a little, faster. It's a way. In fact, on their website it says produce massive wound channels even in dense, thick-skinned game. And that is true. I found that to be true for sure. Check them out, and check out the episode I did with Barnes. So it's 191 with Mitch Cookson, and he gets into great detail about how these bullets are designed and why they're better. Definitely worth some consideration. Go to barnesbullets.com, have a look for yourself, make a decision, let me know what you think. See ya.
And that, along in itself, there's a lot of even non-hunters that enjoy the outdoors totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not generally contributing to conservation like a hunter is. So that's where I just have a strong passion for, keeping it open for everyone, even the bird watchers. It doesn't matter, if you're just out joyriding or day hiking or whatever it might be. If you enjoy the outdoors, don't be afraid to buy a hunting license. You know, it goes a long ways.
Yeah. Yeah, even if you're not doing that. Did you hear there is and I think this is in Colorado. There is, I think they're backpackers or something, but they're trying to make it so that, it actually, I think, came out of the hunting, hunters making a kind of a fuss that they're putting in all the money for wildlife management but everybody's enjoying it. I kind of like the fact that hunters are the ones that raise all the money for conservation and wildlife management efforts.
I don't mind that at all.
I don't.
I really don't. And it just keeps it open for everyone. And, the hunter is really the one that's going to be in the woods for a season for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got, your non-hunters get to enjoy it year round.
Exactly. And so I don't want them to have that stake in the game, because that gives hunters a stronger voice when we do have opposition.
Correct.
And so I don't mind being the ones that pay for it, and I encourage non-hunters to go out there. I'm not a bird watcher. I'm not going to go backpacking into the mountains without a mission. There's going to be a mission. I might take a fly rod way back there or something, but something is going to, essentially it's going to turn into something consumable, right? And backpackers don't have that, and bird watchers don't have that, and wildlife photographers, they're not taking something. And so I don't want them to have to put money into it. I like the burden being on hunters, because it gives us a lot of credibility.
I fully agree.
And so circling back to getting kids involved in hunting, I have a lot of opinions on it. I want to hear, like, in your mind, how do you go about getting kids involved in the outdoors?
Oh, man.
Especially in a world, not to cut you off, but in a world full of cell phones and games and videos and, whatever.
That's kind of a tough question, because, if they don't have a parent or someone that's gone ahead of them and kind of paved the way, generally speaking, they're not going to do it on their own.
Yeah.
So I think it's more of a traditional thing that needs to be kept alive. A role model of some sort, that's a family member, preferably, that can take the time, because you will learn so much more throughout. When hunting, you're learning so much about, I guess, nature in general, and even without consuming an animal, you're learning both physical and mental strengths and weaknesses that many a times we would never learn otherwise. Yep. And so I don't know. I personally just have a soft spot for youth, and I believe it's just very important to take the time and get them out. And it doesn't always have to be just hunting. That's what we like to see, because of the revenue that comes with it long term. But getting kids off the couch, away from technology, and into the woods, whether it be hike to a mountain lake, go do a horse ride, whatever it looks like.
Huckleberry picking is great.
It does. Yeah, it's all great. Take the time and get them out.
Yeah. What's your earliest hunting memory?
Oh, man.
I know it's kind of out of left field, but there's a point to it.
Yeah. Probably 11 years old, 9, 10, 11 years old, somewhere in there. My father took me early on, and I seen kind of how it unfolded. I mean, you're hunting with a shotgun and you're hunting white-tailed deer, and it's looking back at it now, it's very entry level, but it made the biggest impact, and obviously it's where I'm at today stemmed right from that moment.
Yeah.
And if that small experience can make the biggest difference, why not?
I know. And that exposure, I think, is what is key to building a lifelong passion for hunting.
Absolutely.
And I think back, I was even much younger, way before I was old enough to actually carry a rifle and get a tag and all that kind of stuff. But my dad took me mule deer hunting, and he remember those old tent trailers that were just all they were was a tent and beds. There was no heater, no lights, no kitchen, nothing.
Now, is that a jumping jack style you're talking?
Well, it's like the old school version of the jumping jack style, right?
Yeah.
And this thing, my dad had to be from the 1950s or 60s. In fact, he still got the dang thing. He took the tent part out and made it like a utility trailer down at his ranch there.
Sure.
And my dad's not one to throw stuff away.
Gotcha.
But anyway, he took me out in that, and I remember the change. It was the year. How old are you when you start kindergarten? Like 5, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
And he took me out for the weekend. Overcooked the eggs and put way too much pepper on them. I remember the changing leaves. I remember the jerky that was really dry, hiking up the mountain and seeing deer, and it was that. It became like this nostalgic thing, and getting those kids out there to experience Like when you strip a kid away from SpongeBob, and television and video games and expose them to something tangible and real when they're young. I think that's what is critical.
I do believe it's ingrained in us, naturally, is the gathering of substance from nature.
Oh, absolutely.
In general. So, even before my first experience hunting, my father had taken us out and we were doing, the youth camp trips down by the creek. I look back at it now, it's like, man, there's only a few acres back there. It's not like you're back in the wilderness.
Yeah. But
those little experiences where you're sleeping under the stars, you're eating marshmallows and hot dogs, you're fishing in the creeks, that exposure has made just the biggest difference. As a man growing up now, or I should say grown up now, I feel the importance of sharing that with the next generation, because I don't personally see that in a big way, not nearly like I did as a child.
Yeah. And I think society is moving away from putting such importance on that. You know what I was thinking about? Where were we? We went to Sandpoint yesterday, right? And they have like this dog park.
Oh yeah, the concrete jungle.
Yeah. And and I don't want anybody to be offended about me saying it, but it's just bizarre to me that they have these dog parks that people take their dogs to, but I was thinking about like putting a footprint in the snow at this like city dog park. Nobody thinks anything of that, right? Because there's been millions of footprints in that exact same spot. But when you put a footprint in places where we elk hunt, we are potentially the first human to put a footprint right there.
Right, exactly.
And I think about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm weird, I know, yeah. but it's that's what nature is. That's what that connection is.
Well, and if you look even deeper into that, there is many of, wilderness. There's a lot of backcountry that, it doesn't see a lot of traffic at all.
Yeah.
And it might not have seen anybody for years. But if you fast forward to fast food restaurants, the hustle and bustle and all that, we've become very accustomed to the finer things in life within a few generations. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that long ago. We had to hunt. We had to gather. We had to grow our own. Or if you didn't, you didn't eat. Mm-hmm. It's just that simple. It was a way of life for how many thousands of years prior to restaurants.
Exactly. That's why I say, things like veganism, that's a first world luxury. If you go to third world countries where they're still living off the land, there's no anti-hunting movement. There's no vegans.
No.
There's no. That's what society, this level of comfort that this society, and not, this is not a complaint. I love the fact that we live in this society where, if somebody wants to spend their entire life living in a high-rise apartment and taking their dog to the dog park and not going in the mountains where the elk are, that's fine with me because it makes the mountains a little less crowded, right?
That's right.
But it is only that has developed a lot of the weaknesses that develop in especially men that never experienced something very difficult, and that's why I appreciated the priority you put on having me take Shiloh out the other day to hunt that lion, because that's another aspect I want people to understand that are listening to this that maybe have, I get a lot of messages when I talk about this lion, for example, that Shiloh got, and they're like, oh, I can't wait till my kids are big enough to do that. Man, it happens really fast. They're babies, and then all of a sudden they're big enough and giving you lip and, all that kind of stuff. So it happens fast, first of all. But at the beginning of this month, I went out with you, and I got that big lion. And then a couple weeks later, we go out, and I thought you were going to kill me, but we hiked roughly over 2 miles up in like 2 feet of snow, and I kept sinking in these giant snow drifts.
That was a hard hike. There's no doubt, but look at the experience that shaped for your daughter.
Oh,
and,
man.
She pushed herself in a way that she can be proud of.
Absolutely. And she is.
She's going to think about that in other areas in life, other things that she's going to do throughout her lifetime, that, she's raised the bar of what she knows she's now capable of, both mentally and physically.
Absolutely.
And that came from you taking her into the woods and showing her that experience.
And I think the I don't know, moral of what I was trying to get at with that is exactly what you just said. And the fact that for me as a dad, the satisfaction I got was way greater than when it was just my hunt, right?
Sure.
And so that's an aspect that, Shiloh is really reserved. She's not got a lot of confidence in a lot of things. She has, she doesn't make friends really fast, that kind of stuff. So when she does that, by the time we got back to the truck, she just drug a mountain lion that she killed 2 miles off a mountain and back to the truck, and 4 miles total and 0-degree temperatures.
Yep.
I mean, think of the psyche, the improvement.
And now, her younger sister.
Oh, I know.
She saw that.
She's bugging me now.
I asked her the other day, I says, so what'd you think about that? And she kind of nods her head. Yeah. I said, so are you interested in getting or doing a hunt? She said, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
She wants it.
She's game, man.
Yeah. Even after hearing all the stories of the, the long hike, the deep snow, the cold temperatures, all the above.
You know what's funny? I'm not afraid to take Paige out because I know it'll be a lot easier.
Really?
For some reason, that kid is so lucky. She went out there one time and killed a buck this last fall. That was it. She didn't go out before and try. She didn't go sit in the deer stand at all. She went out there for 20 minutes. That buck walked in front of her and she killed it.
That's awesome.
Shiloh spent weeks sitting in that deer blind.
So who archery hunted the buck in rifle season that died in the pond?
That was Shiloh.
What an awesome experience. That is just perfect.
I know. I still need to get them on. I want to bring her on and talk to her about that on the show.
Mm-hmm.
I just think she's had a heck of a season.
Good.
Between that and, I'm gone. It actually, there was this weird level of satisfaction I had. It was super weird for me to not be there in the deer blind with her. Right.
Sure. Yeah.
Because this is the first time I'm gone guiding. You had me out in, an hour away. And I happened to be in service where I was at, and Nicole starts texting me, Shiloh killed a buck, and it's a big one. And all of a sudden she's like, oh, it went in the pond. Oh, it's floating and dead in the middle of the pond. And anyway, it was so cool the way that happened, that satisfaction of her and her sister, getting that buck out of the pond with a rowboat without me there, and just took care of it all, man. It was awesome.
That's that growing up part that, it obviously they weren't capable of that just a few short years ago.
Well, and think about the 30-year-old grown men that wouldn't have a clue as to how to do that.
Correct. Some even older than that.
Yeah, some even older than that. But I always think of the 30-year-old grown man living in mom's basement playing video games his whole life.
Yeah, gotta love it.
They wouldn't know how to do that.
No.
So
no, but then you get these young girls like that. When they can bring home clean venison like that and enjoy doing it. Their families, moving forward, they're always going to be fed.
Yep, absolutely. She helps us butcher.
Yeah.
Well, they both do. They help us butcher these animals. They help us package these animals and get them in the freezers over there that you see. And
if things ever go south and the grocery stores run out of food, you can rely on those types of people to go out and get her done.
Absolutely, and
it's impressive.
I mean. God just put me into this lifestyle because I was telling you we were in Sandpoint yesterday. You know what they were cleaned out of on the shelves? I didn't know this was going on, but there are no eggs in the grocery store.
Oh my.
It was cleaned out.
Wow.
And we didn't notice because we raise our own chickens with eggs and stuff like that, and it's just not a big deal. Can you talk to people, because you're so immersed in all this. You've got such this self-sufficiency and self-sustainability about what you do with your life. What like advice would you give to somebody that wants to get into that kind of lifestyle with between hunting and you're kind of a homesteader, kind of a, you you have those goofy little goats running around your yard.
Well, I guess I don't. There's no magic word for sure, but the one is, just start where you know. It is a trial by error. It's not one of those things you can mess up really big on. If you do garden and you foul up, you start over. You'll get it right next time. And same with hunting. So what if the deer gets your wind and blows off, and now you're screwed out of a hunt? Start over. Don't give up. To me, that's a real big one. It's just go do it. You will learn as you go. Talk to people that do know kind of what they're doing. But there's just, like I said, there's no magic word for it all. But the one is just don't give up.
Yeah.
Just get out and start. Start where you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Start small.
Start small.
Yeah. Start small.
Absolutely. And
then
build from there.
Yeah. I was killing jackrabbits with a 22 at 8 years old.
Yeah, absolutely. Same here.
Yeah. It's the same kind of thing. That started somewhere, and this cold, we're going to have to get you back on, man. This cold is killing me on this one. I know we've got a hard break here coming up, so I want to make sure we cover Elk Creek Outfitting, your role there.
Sure.
Stuff like that. Talk to us about Elk Creek Outfitting. First of all, how long have you been there?
So 21 going on 22 years now that I've been there. I've seen it go from, a very productive company to, it had its downfalls, and then back to a very productive company. It's built from scratch. 34 years is where it's kind of standing right now, 35 years, something like that. That was when outfitters licenses were first issued, and Brent Fitchett was one of the first to have an actual outfitter's license in this area. And so, now moving forward, after I've been there 21 plus years, they're looking to pass the baton, and hopefully it's something I can grab and keep going, because I've seen where it makes a difference in people's lives. It makes a difference in conservation. And then, of course, it's a good job for the family as well. There's a lot of moving parts within the company, and it sits in a wonderful spot. We're in a very outdoor rich area here in northwest Montana, very low populated area. So lots of elbow room. We got 2.5 million acres we can hunt on. So that's everything from wilderness to state to, a lot of private land stuff. It's a pretty wide wingspan.
It is. I love the lodge, man. I love that the way it sits at the bottom of that little canyon drainage thing.
We were just up there a little bit ago using the long range shooting area there, and it's got opportunity to shoot anywhere from 50 yards to almost 900 yards. So in the off season like this, it's just fun to go and go over your equipment, get practiced up. That way, when that moment of truth unfolds, you're ready.
What if you were to, like, let's say somebody called you up and they're like, hey, I want to book an elk hunt with Elk Creek Outfitters, and what would you tell them from a standpoint of coming prepared and being ready? Because like you said, man, this is some of the most remote, treacherous country around. It's not like hunting in big open areas where, you can see for miles anyway, not to go down that rabbit hole, but what would you tell them?
The big one is make sure you have the best equipment that you can afford, for one. That will make your hunt more enjoyable. And then 6 days is what these hunts are going on, and that's a short amount of time to really do a full experience. So if you can get in your guide's back pocket, communicate with your guide on anything from what time you're going to leave in the morning, what does the hike look like, what gear do I need to bring, Definitely don't be afraid to ask the questions. And then, all of our guides are very experienced, and they're happy to share that information. They scout in the off season. They do a lot of homework on their own time to make the experience more enjoyable. But I would recommend don't make that 6-day hunt your end all be all. Don't be afraid to get that second hunt or third hunt, because there's many a times you'll see so much more that you would never see in the first 6 days.
Yeah.
There's a lot to experience here.
Man, that's so true.
Yeah.
It's so hard to have this expectation of coming out and killing a bull elk and filling a mule deer tag all in a 6 days time span.
Correct.
It's a tall order.
And we live in a very timbered area. Like, I would say 80 to 90% timber cover.
Yeah.
And so you're not going to see a whole pile of animals.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see a whole lot of tracks and sign, and many a times that animal that you're about to shoot, you won't see until you're right at getting ready to shoot it.
Yeah.
And so, again, just communicate with your guide, stay on the hunt, keep your head in the game, don't let your guard down. Just enjoy the hunt. That's, I think, the way you're going to walk away with the best experience is, that open communication with your guide. They know the area well. They're going to show you so much more than just the hunt itself.
Mm-hmm.
And don't be afraid to take pictures.
Yeah.
But, the one thing with that heavy timber is the age class of the animals here, which I believe is super important, because they can reach their full potential where they have the security of cover, lots of food, lots of water.
Yeah.
So I strongly think that if you just communicate with your guide on what you think your skill levels are, they're going to start you light, and they'll feel it out a little bit to make sure you're not going on some death march when you're just not ready for that.
Yeah,
because that can really sour a person.
Yeah, and it can, I think, try to be in the best shape you can be.
Absolutely,
but you don't necessarily have to be like an elite mountain athlete to make it happen.
Well, and that's the other thing. We have such a wide range of hunts available. We've had people on defibrillators. We've had people in wheelchairs.
Yeah.
And then we also got, guys that are real serious that want nothing but the best, and we have guides and area to support that.
Yeah.
So
there is definitely a huge, diversity of opportunities with Elk Creek that I've noticed that I think I'm sure there's other outfitters out there that have that as well. And maybe in other states, especially, but, there's just Elk Creek has, whether it's private or public land, whether it's archery or rifle, whether you want to hunt thick, old growth, coniferous type forest, or you want to hunt a little bit more open country,
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of all available.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah.
And I think that, just stay in the game, enjoy your hunt. Doesn't matter what happens, because I can speak with complete confidence. Your guide will work his hardest for you, for that positive experience.
Yeah. Those guys. Yeah. Lots of respect, meeting all those guides and seeing how hard they work and man, I'm fired up. I'm fired up for you, man. I think this is going to be a great future.
Super exciting. And I would say I've helped train almost all the guides there to one degree or the other. Some don't need training. Some just are semi-natural, so to speak. But I will say with complete confidence that whatever guide you do get paired up with here, you're going to have a good experience.
Yeah. Well, this has been fun, man. I've been really wanting to get you on the show for a long time, and
I appreciate it.
I'd love to do it again, just because I know we got to kind of cut it short here. But you're just a wealth of information. I don't think we even scratched the surface as to what I'd love to get you on to just talk like mule deer strategy or like rifle elk strategy, things like that, post rut,
Yep.
all those kind of conversations. I think that there's there's so many people out there that just have a need for that. And who better that's somebody that's been guiding for 20 years, has way more experience than somebody that's hunted a few weekends once a year, for 50 years. You think about the amount of experience behind that. And so
I will say, along with that, while we have a minute, the coming into the game new, fresh, and getting paired up with other guides that have had, a lifetime of experience prior to that really help advance my knowledge and what I'm able to pass on to the next.
Yeah.
Because there's a few guys that took me under wing early on, very early on, that have accelerated much faster than I could have ever done on my own.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Some of them guys are now out of the game, and now I have that knowledge that they took the time and shared with me.
Yeah. Well, and it shows, man. It shows you've got that credible confidence that a lot of hunters that want to have that kind of confidence lack. And so
I appreciate that. I sure enjoy it.
It's pretty fun. It's pretty fun hunting with you and listening to you tell stories and some of your lion stories would be pretty good to have on record for sure at some point. So we'll just do this again.
Yep. Sounds like a plan.
All right, folks. Well, you can check it out. Definitely check it out. I'll have it in the show notes where I'll put the Elk Creek Outfitting website if you guys want to have a look at that if you're interested. I don't know. Is it too late at this point for people to get booked up for this season out there, or is there still some opportunity?
there is still some openings for 25. But I would definitely recommend it. If you're serious about it, get on it.
Yeah.
Put the $500 deposit down. If something comes up and you can't make it, we'll push it back a year.
Yeah.
Or two.
That's what's not. You guys are flexible with that. And if nothing else, I'd come hang out there. If I wasn't guiding there, I'd come hang out there just for the food.
Absolutely.
It's ridiculous.
Yep. We have a great chef.
Yeah, you really do. All right, guys. So check that out at elkcreekoutfitting.com. Again, that'll be in the show notes. And once again, shout out to Silencer Central, Phelps Game Calls, Barnes Bullets, Vantage Point Archery, and Loophole Optics. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks a bunch. You made it. That's the end of the episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure you're following us on Instagram @TheWesternHuntsman and write us a good review at Apple Podcasts. Thanks, guys. See you next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you on the mountain.